Good evening, good morning, esteemed speakers, distinguished guests, industry leaders, cybersecurity professionals, and friends. As chairman of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, Indo-US Trade Relations Committee, it is my privilege to welcome you all to today's webinar, which is titled Inside the Shadows, Cybersecurity, AI, and the Dark Web Threat Economy. You would all agree that we are meeting at a very defining moment in the evolution of the digital economy. And why I say that is we all know that AI is reshaping industries, it is accelerating innovation, it's also deepening the Indo-US technology collaboration, which is key to us. Yet, as we push the boundaries of progress, we must also confront an uncomfortable reality. And that is the same technologies which are empowering businesses are also being weaponized in the shadows. The dark web is no longer a fringe ecosystem. It is very well organized. It is a structured, monetized threat economy, complete with marketplaces, service providers, ransomware as a service models, synthetic identity factories, AI-powered phishing kits, you name it. Threat actors are using generative AI to scale up mass deception, automate reconnaissance, and bypass traditional security controls. It is very, very scary, as you would know. What was once sophisticated is now becoming frequent as well. So, what does it mean for businesses operating across India and the United States, and indeed globally, particularly in sensitive sectors like financial services or telecom or healthcare, defense, overall digital infrastructure? Cyber resilience is no longer optional. It is foundational to business, it is foundational to trade, trust, and growth itself. And that's because in a world of interconnected supply chains and cross border data flows, a vulnerability in one node can very quickly cascade globally. And that's the scenario that we are faced with. But today's session is not about fear. Okay, it is about preparedness. It is about understanding the threat landscape with clarity, strengthening the collaboration between public and private sectors, and leveraging AI defensively in an as aggressive a manner as adversaries are deploying it offensively. The Indo-US partnership has always been anchored in shared values of innovation, openness, and enterprise. And it is our collective challenge that is to ensure that this innovation ecosystem remains secure, resilient, and trusted. So with that said, it is my honor and privilege to introduce our session chair, Mr. Rajendra V. Gangarde, who is a technology entrepreneur and founder of and MD and CEO of Vishwaguru Infotech Private Limited. He's got over 2 decades of cross-border experience, including leadership roles in the US. He specializes in building scalable digital platforms for public governance, healthcare, and cooperative banking ecosystems. He's led the development of an award-winning COVID-19 pandemic management platform, Maharashtra, which served over 120 million citizens and earned national and international recognition. He's a member of the National Committee, Indo-US Trade Relations, Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, and serves on the Board of Management of Pune People's Cooperative Bank and the Board of Studies for Computer Science at Savitribai Phule, Pune University. Over to you, Mr. Rajendra V. Gangarde.
Thank you, Arun Karna, sir. It's my privilege to welcome you all on behalf of India's Trade Relations Committee and IACC. As sir rightly said, cybersecurity is no longer an IT issue or it is a technical afterthought. It is a boardroom priority, it is a governance responsibility, and increasingly a matter of national and economic security. To put this in perspective, the global cybercrime economy last year was, it said like it crossed almost $10.5 trillion. To put this in perspective, if you see the numbers, if you compare with national economies, the cybercrime economy, the threat economy was like ranked third largest economy in the world. So, and this is not it. It's nearly one man in every three individuals is impacted by cyber threat in some or the other forms: financial fraud, identity theft, data breaches, digital manipulation, and same time, like now the AI conference is happening. The way AI has transformed industries, as Sir said, it is accelerating automation, enhancing decision making. Simultaneously, it is empowering the cyber criminals as well. You see, I mean, if you have a AK-47 rifle in the hands of security professionals, like our police officers, right? But and simultaneously, if it is in hands of masked man, you see the kind of feeling we have. So, in the hands of responsible enterprises, security agencies, and governments, AI strengthens defense. In the hands of digital underworld, it becomes force multiplier, right? As I said, enabling deepfakes, synthetic identities, automated attacks, and scalable deception. And deep web has also matured into a structured economy. So to tackle this problem and tackle these situations, right, we have panelists, distinguished panelists who are day in day out facing these challenges in the real world. So we have leaders from enterprise, enforcement, judiciary, academia, telecom infrastructure, and policy to examine this reality to define a collective response. Before I turn to panelists for their introduction, I'll just give you overall flow of the webinar. So to keep the momentum and logical flow, like we'll go to first corporations, okay, enterprise view of the problem. Then we'll go to enforcement. From there, we'll go to telecom or network, and then from there, judiciary, academia, and policy. So, I mean, for introduction of esteemed panelists, let's start with one of India's senior most veteran in cybersecurity, with the CISO of Orient Technologies, Mr. Vaibhav Patkar, sir.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So my name is Vaibhav Patkar. I'm currently CISO of Orient Technologies. Been in industry for 30 plus years. Worked with companies like JP Morgan, IBM, and but part of their teams setting up the infrastructure, security infrastructure, sorting out all kinds of stuff. So been there. Currently managing my company's environment as well as supporting my customers for security related initiatives. And I'm here happy to be here part of this session. Thank you.
Okay. Then I'll turn over to a seasoned cybersecurity leader overseeing security strategy in one of the world's most regulated financial environment, India CISO and Chief Control Officers, Morgan Stanley, Shobhana.
Thank you, Rajendra sir. Hi all, good evening. I'm Shobha Jagatpal, a cybersecurity and risk management leader with over 2.5 decades of experience. I had the opportunity to work in a startup ecosystem, product development, services, and also customer facing environments, and also looking into retail and financial sectors deeply in them. I'm passionate about building a culture of innovation and resilience and a strong technology foundations by nurturing high performing cybersecurity and technology teams. I would like to sincerely thank my firm and the organizing team for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts in this esteemed panel. Thank you. Back to you, sir.
Thank you. And next one is an experienced enforcement officer handling complex digital investigations and emerging AI-enabled crimes. AT&T Pune Crime, Pankaj Deshmukh, sir.
Good evening, all. I am Pankaj Deshmukh. I am an IPS officer of 2011 batch. I am born on the Maharashtra cadre. I am presently handling the portfolio of additional CP crime in Pune city. Pune, as you know, is a big urban conglomerate, and I look after crime, economic offenses, as well as cyber crime. I am trained as a software engineer, had an industry experience of 2 years. I happened to work with HSBC as a software developer before shifting into IPS through UPSC. Presently, my challenges which are concurrent with today's discussion, especially with digital arrest and similar challenges, which are not necessarily very high tech, but yes, those are tech-enabled crimes which we see happening day in and day out. So how we can prevent those, and if those crimes happen, the challenge before me is to crack those crimes, follow through in the investigation, and make sure that the perpetrators are being taken to task. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next one is a global telecom leader in technology with this deep expertise in infrastructure security and AI-enabled network defense. CTO and Director of AT&T, Sukhjit Singh, sir.
Thank you, Rajendraji. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sukhjit Singh. I'm CTO and Technical Director with AT&T India, and my primary role is to provide the solutions to our global customers based onto the telecom solution, as well as making sure all the overlay services on top of that, including cybersecurity solutions. I have been working with AT&T for more than 17 years by now, and before that, I have been working in the similar areas, working with Cisco and IBM for my last 3 decades of sort of technology in the IT industry. That's brief about me. With that, I pass it on back to Rajendraji.
Thank you, sir. Next one is an exceptionally talented and deeply committed voice in the field of cyber law and digital justice, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court of India, and founder Cyber Saathi, Nappinai, ma'am. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. You have effectively given my introduction already. So incidentally, I come here wearing 2 hats, and the first is as a practicing advocate, a senior advocate who undertakes litigations before courts. Incidentally, Deshmukh sir, I'm the amicus in the digital arrest case before the Supreme Court. And so I contribute both in terms of through matters and also in law and policy making. And my other hat today as the founder of Cybersecurity, a non-profit organization which involves itself in creating awareness. And I think that's something which we have seen as being very critical, especially when we are talking about the evolving phase of crimes. And despite all the awareness programs we do, I know that it has still not mitigated crimes. But yes, Cybersecurity has been involved a lot in terms of bottoms up. We work on awareness, and top down in terms of contributing to law and policy in the field of cyber.
Thank you, ma'am. Next one is a respected academic voice examining jurisprudence, cyber regulation, and technology law evolution, Professor Dr. A. Nagarathna, ma'am.
Very good evening. Sorry, I'm unable to switch on the video, but let me introduce myself. So as already mentioned, I'm Dr. Nagarathna. I'm an associate professor of law at National Law School of India University, Bangalore. Currently, I'm teaching cyber laws and criminal laws at the law school. This includes the Information Technology Act as well as related issues like DPDP Act, then criminal laws including both procedural as well as substantive. The law school, I'm also involved in designing and conducting training programs on cyber laws to the members of law enforcement agencies, including the police, prosecution, judiciary. We also work quite closely with industry as well as the state in terms of framing policies on issues related to cyber law. Glad to be here on this platform. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next one is policy and governance specialist, advising on cyber regulation, compliance frameworks, and digital oversight systems, Mr. Ashish Sonawane, founder, Niti.
Namaste, everyone. I am an engineer originally, spent 14 years in IT industry, predominantly in the investment banking side of the thing. I worked with firms like Barclays, Credit Suisse, and Nomura, predominantly from legal and financial crime background. And as Nipani ma'am stated, she wears hat. I actually wear a hat, and my hats are predominantly from the technology and the legal point of view. I'm also practicing advocate in Bombay High Court, and my area predominantly evolves around the cyber crimes which are currently happening, as well as consulting corporates, and also helping the government wherever I can in the policy matters, especially with the DPDP Act. I got an opportunity to play a little role. And likewise, the awareness is another area where I'm passionate about, and especially in the cooperative sector, because cooperative sector, especially in India, is hit by cyber crimes like anything in comparison with other financial institutes. So yeah, that's about me. Over to you, Rajendra.
Okay, thank you very much, Ashish. So as I said, right, so for most of these kind of cyber incidents, the team which is always in front is, facing from the front is enterprise. So let's start by taking an enterprise view of it. Let's start with Vaibhav, sir. From an enterprise perspective, cybersecurity architecture, how organizations are adapting their defenses in AI-enabled threats?
Great question to start. Let me go a little back and talk about the basics and then probably start. So predominantly, when you talk about cybersecurity architecture, there have been a lot of evolution has happened. Earlier, we started with perimeter security, which talked about blocking access based on or allowing access based on IP and IP address and ports. Then we migrated to something known as context-based security, which will allow access based on your location or a time of the day. Then we talked about content-based security, which is something related to the type of data or traffic what you are accessing. So let's say a non-business site can be blocked, or let's say like a porn sites can be blocked. So that's a content-based security. Now, those were all traditional way of securities, but with AI in the news, now the focus is changing to something known as intent-based security. Now, what do you mean by intent-based security? So, which means that the kind of prompts that you are typing, whether they are valid or not, or you can actually do certain activities based on what you say and what you think or the system thinks, and you need to think about a kind of putting a security. So the architectures or security architects now has to think from an intense security point of view, in addition to what the traditional 3 types of security which I talked about. So enterprises are now actually working. So they're trying to put some kind of a gateway firewall which has got AI component, or I could say AI firewalls, which actually interprets what is being asked or what is being going into the environment and trying to protect the enterprises accordingly. So things are happening in that kind of a direction. If I can simply explain from a architecture point of view, right?
Great. Thank you, sir. So, it explains, right? Earlier used to be whitelisting of APIs or location-based security. From there to, so to deal with deception, right? So now, are we investing enough, do you think, in proactive detection, or most enterprises are still reactive?
It's a interesting question, because see, when you talk about integrating new technologies, you require to have proper budgets. Today, we are still working on the older technologies, but trying to give some kind of a patchwork kind of a stuff. So yeah, so I'll give an example. Let's say you talk about a SOC. A SOC today only blocks things based on the content and the context, which I already spoke about. But how about integrating some agentic AIs into, or agentic AI into that stuff, so that it can actually think about what the security or what the things are going where, and then take action accordingly. So enterprise are thinking in that direction, and then products also are coming. But at this point of time, basically the cost is a little bit of a factor, which people are a little bit showing little conservativeness. But hopefully once the prices go down, I think people will start, because there's going to be a need for integrating AI into your cybersecurity defense environment as well. So from traditionally a typical VAPT, which is a point-in-time exercise. People are now talking about CTAM, is continuous threat and enterprise threat management system. So which means the VAPTs are running on a regular basis rather than once in a 6 months or once in a. So these are some of the changes which I see, and I hope that will be a better way. And as we move forward, things will come, cost will come down, and we'll see much proliferation of such technologies and products across.
Right. Thank you, sir. So you rightly said the patchwork is still on, and the cost of SOC. I am also on the board of management of one of the cooperative banks, so I understand, right? So investing into like that level of SOC is always challenge for small financial institutions. But
Right.
this is the real challenge. I mean, we have technology available, advanced deception systems, we have threat monitoring models available. But to implement full-fledged SOC, I mean, yet still there is a lot of time. I mean, although we have things in place, because of cost is one of the factors. Now, Shobha ma'am, you come from the financial sector. So you see, right, financial sector, I mean, enterprise is always at the forefront, and I can say directly or indirectly, fintech, it will come to the fintech part of it, right? So what are the most pressing cyber threats institutions are facing today, particularly in AI-driven environment?
Thank you for asking that question. So I think Arun Karna sir initially touched, and he gave an insight on the complexities and the scales that we need to deal with. That is definitely the starting point. And within that, identity is one target where largest number of breaches and the volumes of breaches happen, anything to deal with the identity. Following that, the ransomware and deepfakes, which are actually blending and getting into the multi-vector mode. So it is not just one vector. These attacks are happening. It could be through an email, it could be through web. You can think of a media and all that is a targeting vector to bring in a threat for us at this point of time. And even if we do our job well, we are so dependent in the technology world on the supply chain or the third party, and that is definitely a very important threat vector, a critical threat vector that we need to consider. So looking at all of these things, the crime for profit and then also politically motivated threats are growing. And whatever was the traditional vectors, it could be from a ransomware or a phishing, they're all getting fused, and AI tools are being merged into it. That is increasing the rates and also increasing the damage that would caused out of it. So, for example, when we talk about an identity centric attack, right? Bypassing the multi-factor authentication or session hijacking are made easier for someone to get exploited at this point of time. And so creating new malwares or coming up with new ways to fraud individuals or the firms, those are also in the search, and because they are all getting enabled through AI. And as we use AI to resolve complex solutions and analyze things, so are these threat actors. And because they are leveraging for weaponizing and using AI, the frequency and the sophistication of these attacks are also increasing. So overall, I would say when we look at the threats, AI enhanced and personalized threats are increasing to a larger extent. The automation that can happen is also being augmented with these attack campaigns that are coming our way. Whatever was available to evade our legacy defenses are no longer there because of the way the AI is being leveraged by the threat actors. And financial sectors are high value targets for sure. And so are other, I would say, sectors. But because of the financial value, the target applies strongly to kind of gain benefits by the threat actors. So those are few things that I think, and we have to acknowledge that the threat landscape is changing, and so is the number of exploitation that is happening by leveraging this technology. There are positivities and also few things that is not going in the right direction.
Correct. So as you are saying that they are leveraging and weaponizing AI, are you seeing that attackers are becoming more automated or intelligent in their targeting?
Absolutely, yes. So there's no doubt in it at all. I'm sure that you can recollect, all of us can recollect an example last year when there was a deep fake video which was released, and it made one of the financial executives of a bank to transfer money, crores of money, right? So that was a deep fake kind of an attack where this was leveraged. And there are also so many systematically and structured operated mechanisms that are available. I recently read many examples of how cyber fraud involving deepfake voice, audio, and all these chat scripts are creating those emotional urgency or manipulation which are getting more victims to kind of fall prey of. There are also many stories that we have, or incidents that we have read about sophisticated phishing campaigns, not just a spear phishing campaign, further sophistication which get introduced into it by leveraging the technology. I would definitely see that this is being leveraged to increase the complexity of the attack, and also making it difficult for one to detect and prevent it when it happens as well.
Good, thanks, ma'am. So, Pankaj Deshmukh, sir, so when I came to a meeting you called for the banks, cooperative banks, right? So I heard about digital arrest in details, right? Before going to the main question, I have a question for you. So do you think in digital arrest mechanism, do they use some kind of hypnotism or something like that? Because
I think that's a very interesting question. In fact, the kind of money which people have parted and over the months, even that made me think like there's something called as cyber hypnosis, screen hypnosis, or a phone call hypnosis, something like that. I even tried to search. We even interviewed some of the victims, but unfortunately, there's nothing such thing. To tell you, but it is basically what do you say? Very human nature is being put to test. So there
right,
are two basic human instincts. The first one is of fear, and which is a natural one, and the other one, which is an acquired one, is of greed. So in any kind of a crime, these two instincts are there which are at play. The perpetrator tries to play with these two instincts of the victim, and then he manipulates that person. So in case of in case of digital arrest, also happens the same thing. But what is surprising is that over the months, people keep giving their money. They liquidate the assets which they have accumulated over the years. They are already in their sunset years of their life, and people part with crores of rupees. What is worrying is that they do not even tell their immediate family members, and once this phase has happened and they report it after a passage of almost a month after the incident has taken. So in that case it becomes very very difficult for us. So my conclusion from this is that people, as I said, that there are these two tendencies, that is fear and greed, and a very predominant tendency which we find in all these victims is that they are not communicating with their family members, or socially they are not very active. So these are isolated individuals, and then they start trusting the screen, or they start trusting whatever phone call they get, and they eventually land up in that net. This is what our inferences are, though I cannot say that those are conclusions backed by some solid evidence.
great. As you rightly said, so greed is something, there are no shortcuts, right? Shortcuts might take everything out of you. It will not take you where you want to be earlier, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. So from law enforcement perspective, now how have cybercrime patterns have evolved over the past few years? Are AI-enabled crimes are now becoming regular occurrence?
I mean, from a macro point of view, if we take a bird's eye view, there is a pattern which is clearly emerging that the cybercrime, or I will say that tech-enabled crimes, because now you will have to look at it from the point of view of society, that we have incorporated tech, mobile, social media in all walks of our life. So it is obvious that volume wise our interaction with technology has improved, and that's the reason why we are what do you say, we are open to manipulation that has happened. So it is a ecosystem phenomena which has happened. Secondly, the trend which I can find is that cyber crime or tech enabled crime, which was on the fringe a few years ago, eventually it is becoming a mainstay. I mean, it is occupying a center position, although it doesn't get much attention as far as news and the kind of media attention it should get, because any sensational murder will obviously get more news attention than somebody siphoned off of 10 crores sitting in his living room. But as far as the quantum is concerned, the quantum of money people are being robbed, so that quantum is humongous, and now considered to compared to other property offenses which we see. So in cybercrime, in a single offense or in a single operation, crores of rupees are being siphoned off. So that trend is there. Thirdly, which I think is a trend which is happening, is there's a kind of sophistication not only of technology, but also the processes are sophisticated. I mean, these the call centers who try to lure you into a digital arrest. So these call center operatives, they have a script with them, and they play with psychologically, they will play with your mind. They understand the human nature. So the kind of sophistication it is there, the kind of organization it is there, and this has what is catapulted into a kind of organized crime uh, which is global. I mean, it doesn't have the barrier of border or national border. So these are the three four major trends which I can find in cyber crimes.
Okay. Now you said there is no border, but I mean, when I see there are a lot of jurisdictions, right? So when a crime originates from dark web or across the border, so what are your investigative challenges in those scenarios?
I mean, the challenges are again manifold in terms of when it comes that because dark web itself is now becoming, it has already become a organized marketplace, and especially when it comes to narcotic substances, drugs, pornography, synthetic identities, credentials, personal data, all these things are available. So even if we try to, or we are in a position to reach out to the perpetrator, but that reaching out ultimately limits us to a IP address or to a phone number. But when it is cross border, of course, there are the usual challenges which every law enforcement agency faces, and here is where the role of global agencies like Interpol comes, or on a national level, CBI acts as a nodal agency for the entire nation when it comes to coordinating with other countries. So that is there. Having said that, there's also a lot of this cybercrime happening through non-state actors, especially if you know about certain countries in Southeast Asia. So the countries which are there are certain territories which are not under the control of the government, and even terror outfits and organized crime syndicates, they operate through these territories, and with technology it becomes very easy for them.
Correct. Now, okay, thank you, sir. So, as you are saying, right, if there are uncontrolled territories, there is no governance, right? There is no sophisticated governance, there is a parallel governance rather. So, now the way that network is empowering, like I said, AI is empowering industries. Like same way, network is empowering the industries as well as networks are being used as a tool. Now, at telecom and infrastructure level, Sukhjit ji, how do you think AI is reshaping both network security and exposure to the threats?
Yeah, sure, Ravinder. So I think as the other panelists talked about and pointed out, impact on the threat, and maybe I can start from there. See, the two challenges which we have is one is foundation of overall all this is that democratization of the AI capabilities, right? So what basically does is that it reduces the entry level from skills perspective uh, for the people who are basically are the adversaries, right? So they without knowing much of the or having a technical capabilities, they're using AI. They are able to gain the capability which earlier used to take quite a lot of time to basically create it. For them, it becomes easy that how they can attack using AI without having much of the technical skills. So that is something which is a big issue and big threat, and which is increasing. While on the one side, the AI is helping in terms of getting the benefit of what innovation we want to do it in a positive sense, but adversaries are using on the other side to create bigger and bigger threats faster. They are able to gain that capabilities and use those capabilities in a sense which we have to be protected from. So that is a big challenge in a one way. The other one is that having the darknet view, if we see that it's creating, making the lot of these tools available for these adversaries, which they can basically get it in a very economical way or whatever, without much efforts. As Shobna ji mentioned, that a lot of data which is has been difficult earlier to get. Now those are something which is as including the bank account, telephone number, and your Aadhaar number and PAN card, etc. These basic KYC details, these are available on the darknet for a sort of a small amount, and that's big challenge for us. That how do we protect it? So keeping those things in view, we certainly have big threat coming in from the one from perspective of retail customers and to the citizens. The other one is that on the darknet as well as there are a lot of things which from enterprise perspective which we are worried about is that like the DDoS we have been talking about. DDoS is one of the things which technically we have solution to protect, but now DDoS as a service which in the darknet they say, okay, you want as a service, we can create DDoS for you. So that's another one. The fraud as a service, some of the terms which are interesting to know, like AI as service as a attack for attack orchestration. So AI as a service which can be made available for attack orchestration, and these are sophistication which are creating a lot of challenges for us to make sure. In addition to the deep fake, we other panelists talked about it. The social engineering, multiple technologies which are based onto the AI is going to be a huge challenge from the threat perspective. Now coming to the basically how we are focusing to make sure that positive way we can build the networks which are capable to secure our customers, knowing in the enterprises that if one enterprise is targeted, the huge number of it's again a very big target. So multiple organization, for example, in India, all the system integrators, those companies are serving multiple clients. So if any attack happens in any enterprise, it's something which impacts multiple group companies, or it can flow to a wider uh, domain basically. So keeping that thing in mind, in terms of the network, there are a lot of capabilities which are being built from the security perspective, which again uses the power of AI, and that helps in anomaly detection, analysis, and automation of the threat intelligence, and sort of correlating overall things, which humanly was not possible earlier. The earlier technologies which we have been using, starting from the CIM and other mechanisms which we have been doing in the past, but now those have changed. It's increasingly using the AI-based capabilities, which helps us in making sure that the one is the reaction time in terms of the one is the proactive, reactive to proactive, protection. The second is the time in which we can really respond to certain attacks. That has to change. The reason is because in the past, there was a pattern in which we as a telecom provider monitor the traffic and we can predict that what is going to happen or what kind of threat might emerge. Now those patterns using the AI, the adversaries are able to bypass. So that is something which we are creating a more number of more capabilities to ensure that how we can ensure to protect from those. So there are a lot of innovation which are happening. Certainly, it is helping us to self-heal from the attacks, and all those capabilities are coming up, which is going to protect our enterprise networks. So that's where I'll take a pause and see if you have.
Okay. So, I know there are a lot of innovation happening. So, when you want to focus, what are you think emerging AI-enabled attack vectors concerning you most at system level?
Right. So basically, as I mentioned, the dark web intelligence is something which is creating the multi-vector challenge, which will have the big challenge for us. And the correlation is something which, as a technology, which is we are empowering using the AI technology. And in terms of the other thing is that using the security method which has been available in the past but was not so commonly used, including the AI-enabled DNS protection, and using the BGP manipulation method, which we can protect using the multiple technology security solutions. So those are something which we are sort of making sure that we have to protect in our network, and also making sure that we are able to onboard new technologies based on to something which is making sure that AI is capable of it. A lot of training in the SOC resources, which is very, very important again, which has been the part of there always, but making sure that the AI is something which is used in the right manner, that requires a big effort to make sure that we can do it. So those are some of the things which will be making sure that the vector sort of attacks can be protected in the network.
Okay, great. Thank you, sir. So now, as we have seen, right, some incidents has happened. We have been to enforcement agencies, collected traces from the network. Because technology is so evolving. Nappinai ma'am, what do you think, right? So bringing that criminal to justice, or the person giving justice to the person, from judicial and constitutional standpoint, are our current legal frameworks adequately equipped to deal with these AI-driven systems? Cybercrime? AI-driven cybercrime?
I was going to ask you that you qualified it, because if you keep it open-ended in terms of law and AI, we can take the rest of the day and maybe the rest of the month, and we still won't see the end of the light at the end of the tunnel. So no, I think that's actually a very expected answer in terms of whether legal systems are equipped or not. See, always law is not expected to be ahead of crimes or technology developments. It will always follow. But of late, if you look at how laws are evolving, you do have forward-looking laws. So there are, the drafting processes have changed such that laws now try to anticipate the kind of changes that technology or any other scenario may bring in, and then try to keep ahead of times. But when we speak about crimes, we are still looking reasonably at old or archaic laws. You may consider that we did have the 3 new criminal major acts coming in, but it may just be predominantly old wine in new bottles, right? So we do not have that much. And just look at the timing. You had the opportunity to introduce all the criminal, all the cybercrime provisions within the code itself. The very word code in Indian Penal Code means it's supposed to be a coalescence of all the legal, criminal, or penal provisions under one head. So when Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita came, it is still meant to be a code, and the right approach would have been to bring in all the cyber crimes under the same head too. It would have also helped police to implement the provisions better, because you cannot expect law to work better. And in fact, in my first book, I've called it the cyber law jigsaw, because when you want to forget about the other kinds of cyber laws, I've dealt with it in the context of intellectual property rights, contracts, etc. But let's stick to crimes now. And even with crimes, if you're going to tell the policeman in a small police station in a very small village, let's not talk urban now, because now crimes are percolating to tier 3, tier 4 at smaller cities and towns, right? So if you're going to tell him, no, it won't be there in Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, let's go search for it in the Information Technology Act. Or maybe it's not there in the Information Technology Act also, it may be in some other special law. How do you expect law to function effectively? Today, we are grappling with how to not just bring these criminals to book, but the most critical thing that we are focusing on before the Supreme Court is how to ensure the victim compensation in these digital arrest cases. So again, you're dealing with multiple ministries, multiple processes, multiple lawmaking processes, leave alone enforcement processes. So with this kind of complexity, some simplicity by ensuring that all provisions came under one head would have really helped us. And this is something I've been very consistent on and repeating myself, that Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita was a great opportunity for the government to do it. But unfortunately, that was also the time when we were thinking about the Digital India Act. And Digital India Act drafts, which were circulated also for public consultation, had very extensive provisions to deal with online harms as they had categorized it. And it also dealt with artificial intelligence and regulation of AI and its implementation and its evolution in terms of the industry perspective too. It also talked about regulation as a compliance process, for AI. But we don't have the Digital India Act still. So this is where our problems start. We have the vision, we have the ability, we had the opportunity, but we are still kind of unfortunately lacking.
Yes. And see, you said it rightly. Now, also a law always follows. But now you see, because of the kind of crimes are evolving with the support of technologies, I mean, we need to find out the midway to this, right? And so, I mean, whenever as a IT professional myself, I see that, right? So most of the things are dealt with surveillance, right? Whenever you have to monitor things, right? But I mean, see, there is a lot of, there is a different, it is very difficult to balance, right, between surveillance and balance of privacy rights, right? So, as a, law expert yourself, so how do you see, how do we balance rights and surveillance when combining with dark web threats?
So there is one aspect I wanted to add before I address your question, that the law and its situation currently is not as bleak also. Though we don't have special laws for AI or AI-enabled crimes, you do have these general laws, and you have to keep in mind, and this is especially for legal practitioners and also for public, that you should not go by the heading in a section. You go by what the provision says, the underlying provision. So if you apply those, take digital arrest itself, for example, existing laws are sufficient to meet this evolving crime because of its dynamism in this extent, right? So why I still bat for special laws is because law is supposed to act as a deterrent. And if you're only going to use underlying principles or provisions, but the heading is not very explicit, the criminal also does not know that he can be caught, he can be prosecuted and punished. So it's critical for us to send that message across. So even if the laws don't do that, I hope there are enough and more arrests, and people like Deshmukh ji and many other law enforcement officers will ensure that their success stories are given enough fillip. Now, very quickly to address your question, you have touched upon a very raw nerve. And my raw nerve is not government surveillance, it's corporate surveillance. Because enough people talk about government surveillance, and enough of us have already delved into, our rights, privacy rights, qua the government. But why are we not having enough narratives coming out in terms of corporate surveillance to individual privacy? Today, the WhatsApp case is going on before the Supreme Court, and for the first time, you're seeing a court taking such a strong stand against a corporate entity refusing to give us the same level of protections that it is extending here in this instance to the European Union citizens, right? So now I think it's really time for each one of us to wake up to our rights, not just qua government. We are all citizens and we must have some trust in our systems. I'm not being extremely optimistic and saying, oh, trust your government, police, or anything excessively. But stop distrusting them also so much. All these systems are meant for us. So why don't we make it work for us also? Why do you keep complaining all the time? Just make it work. But wake up to reality, read the room, and figure out that we have to take a stronger stand today with respect to corporate surveillance. And my concern is that DPDP Act in its skeletal form may or may not really be effective, because it is a little premature for us to talk about it, because the government itself said it's bare bones, we are going to flesh it out with the rules. We'll have to wait and see how strong they are going to be able to make it. But the way it is right now also concerns me, particularly in the context of corporate surveillance, because of the levels of exemptions from consent, from the provisions of the Act itself, and various other opportunities for dilution that the Act has given. So I'm really hoping, I told you I'm an optimist, right? So I'm really hoping that the DPDP Act will evolve better to protect our data better, to also evolve how AI systems and models are going to build based on our data, because Indian data needs to be part of AI systems. We can't on one hand complain about AI systems not working effectively in Indian scenarios, and also in the same breath say, but India's data should not be used in developing AI systems. So there has to be a regulated methodology for that, with transparency, and oh my, am I not asking for the moon and its neighbor?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, ma'am. So I understand, I mean, we should be trusting government than distrusting them. And but what I feel, I mean, as you said, right? So Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita and Digital India is still in making, right? I mean, in draft mode, right? So it has yet to come. So, but that being said, I like to go to Nagarathna ma'am, right? So I mean, as you see, right, as Nappinai ma'am said, right, like it's taking a lot of time for any law. So the traditional lawmaking process which governments use might not work in this scenario because of technology evolving so fast. Now, so as academician, do you think the law is evolving fast compared to technological change, and how should legal education respond to this shift?
Yeah, thank you for this question. And in fact, my friend Miss Nappinai has to some extent addressed this question. So, is law fastly changing compared to the technological changes, the pace at which it changes? No, it is not. It is neither possible nor it should be. It's not possible and nor it should be, because you don't need continuous changes in the law. Of course, law is dynamic based on the changes in the society, and of recently it's all about the changes that's been brought through the technological changes. So you need to address those changes, but addressing that doesn't always require revising the law or changing the law. So then at the same time, there are some well established legal principles, and in fact, as again Nappinai was mentioned, we have a code which has now become BNS. A lot of its provisions are continuing, and some of them are very apt, they're suitable. So there are some provisions which are suitable, and they are time tested provisions that has come to us from 1860 and will continue to apply. So there are some of those which will continue to be relevant. At the same time, through the technology, maybe I'm committing the same conventional crime. Through this technology, maybe I'm committing novel form of crime. So I think we need to categorize this. So when it is a completely new form of an offense which can't be dealt with under the existing law, that is when we require the law. And at the same time, law, if we keep continuously changing it, then there is no element of certainty. Law has to be certain, because I will especially so people in the society should know what is the impact of doing this, that, etc. But to what extent we have legal awareness is a different issue. But if there is uncertainty, it's difficult to even implement the law. So therefore, I feel that we should always adopt a combined approach. When existing law can apply to a scenario which is caused because of AI or machine learning, whatever, apply the same. Try to be in conformity with traditional principles of law, criminal liability, etc. And when it is something that can't be dealt with under the existing law, you require a new law. But when I say new law, it doesn't mean we should always adopt a reactive approach. We of course require a proactive approach, and therefore you require the law which can also have some foresight. Unfortunately, when we amended the IT Act in the year 2008, it was a reactive approach to the Mumbai terror attack that had happened. Similarly, IPC underwent huge changes in the year 2013. Again, that was a reactive approach to Nirbhaya incident. So similarly, long back also, I can give examples of such situations that happened, and because of which we had to amend the law. I don't think we should wait for so long. When you can foresee the risk, of course, you can frame a law which is wide but not vague. And for example, we have sections like 43, which is also 66 of the IT Act, which is quite vast and can be used to tackle various forms of cyber crimes. So therefore, have a law which is vast, comprehensive, meaningfully drafted. And when a new scenario comes before me as a police or as a judge, I should be able to apply that provision to that scenario instead of waiting for a new law to come. And in fact, in our constitution, even if a new law comes, you cannot give retrospective effect to that law for a crime that is already committed. So with all these limitations, I suggest that there should be a combined approach. Sometimes, of course, new law. Sometimes it should be existing law, which should be applied with interpretation of the law, keeping in mind the object of that law.
Okay, great. I understand. I mean, it is encouraging. So hopefully there will be a proactive approach in designing laws as well. I mean, you said it's not possible as well, but I mean, hopefully there should, because considering the technology trends nowadays. That being said, I will turn to our policy advocate, Mr. Ashish Sonawane. From governance and policy architecture perspective, are regulatory systems are agile enough to address the emerging dark web threat economy?
Well, yes. Again, I think it's the same question coming to three lawyers in a series. Because when we talk about agility per se, I being a software developer and being in the business side as well, we talk about delivering in sprints, right? 15-day sprint and 1 month sprint and something like that. And when we talk about the dark web actors, the number, typically TTR number, that is time to ransom number. If we see the general figures which comes in, it's 17 hours. Time to ransom. You get access to a system, encrypt it, get the complete control. It all happens, and even the ransom as well in 17 hours. When we talk about some gangs, these days with AI and all, completing that entire attack in 6 hours.
Wow.
These are the numbers in hours. And when we talk about law enforcement, as the fellow panelist Pankaj has mentioned, with the hypnosis about the digital arrest and whatnot. If we see about the time, we're talking it from the Indo-American perspective, right? And when we talk about the perpetrators sitting across the borders, and especially in the US case, when we have MLAT in place. So ordinary time, given CBI supports our law enforcement in a timely manner, then the minimum window is 10 months to get some documentation, 10 months. And in complex scenarios, it runs into years. So are we agile? The answer is in itself, we are not agile. When we talk about the cross-border actors and when we talk about, the gangs, which are very sophisticated. So, from legal standpoint and from the other things which are happening in other jurisdictions, for example, in UK or in Singapore, there is a regulatory sandbox kind of a concept, wherein I'm sure Shobha ji would also have some areas, wherein they would have contributed to the regulatory sandboxes, wherein what happens is that industry comes in and puts their solutions in a protected environment as sandbox is. And regulators also sit in that entire scenario and they see how exactly things are happening and what changes they really want to achieve through the new technology which is being introduced, especially in the financial world. Because typically they say, right, thieves are in the crowded places and they look for the big pockets. So similarly, financial institutes are the targets. And even Pankaj ji has said, even crores of rupees are being lost as a matter of fact in the digital arrest cases. Again, there are misconceptions that victims of digital arrest are somebody who are less educated. I have cases wherein mathematics PhD from Princeton is a victim of digital arrest in US, not in India. A well-educated family working in IT industry, having their son studying in IIT, is a victim of digital arrest. So these things are happening at a pace for which we really need, agility max, agility pro max these days, the terms which we use. So we are not agile, that's for sure. And we really need approaches wherein governance is required to be delivered with the help of private players as well. And especially with the technos, as they say, these days, CEOs and CIOs and even CISOs, are the terms which are used interchangeably. So likewise, in the governance and policy framework as well, we need not only the technology experts, but also the experts who are having, expertise in the cybersec field to sit on the policy drafting table and probably embed policy, we talk about, as a service these days, anything as a service, for example, ransomware as a service, has very rightly been used by Sukshit ji. So similarly, we need to have policy as a service given to the government, and probably I think IACC can take up, that activity as a part of outcome of this exercise of this webinar to deal with government and probably come up with the policy as a service, probably a solution wherein we can work together.
Great. Yeah, I don't know as a policy as service, but the problem you mentioned about the exchange of documents between India and US, we can definitely, try to help. Like some people from our IACC can be of great help to you. Very senior advocate are members of our chamber. So, okay. Now, from the policy perspective, so if you are given a chance or opportunity, what is the policy reform you will prioritize immediately?
Yes, this is an amazing question. Probably we are answering this question since our school days. Given a chance to become prime minister, what will you do? I think this is a question of the similar nature, right? So as I mentioned, the problem with MLAT, is huge. And these days, as we talk about, freezing the bank accounts. In fact, that question is also before the Supreme Court. Lien marking and freezing the bank accounts involved in the cybercrime. Probably Pankaj ji, would be echoing the same thoughts as that of mine. Because leaning bank accounts has also linked to the fundamental right, because these days we have everything in our bank accounts and we transact through UPI. So my wish list is probably having a similar structure as we have, leading the bank accounts is basically on the similar lines, freezing the data. For example, there's an incident which has happened, and probably the data is stored in, let's say, AWS or any service provider, cloud service provider, or similar service providers, digital service providers. Then there has to be a straightforward request, which can be automated request, which can actually follows the same process probably as that of MLAT, but shall be efficient. With the clicks, we should be able to at least secure the data. Getting access to the data is a different part, but securing the data wherever the data is. Because what happens if 10 months goes by, then in 90 days, we typically purge all the IP addresses. We purge all the records which are there in the technical or the digital systems. So protecting the data immediately is my wish list number one item. May it be the data may be stored in any of the country in the world, and there has to be agreements predominantly with the key players, wherein these people typically operate. So protecting the data immediately and the immediate coordination between the law enforcement agencies across the cross-border ecosystem is the most important and essential step which I would recommend to be changing.
Okay, thank you, Ashish. Now,
Thank you.
Thank you. So what we are hearing clearly is this: now technologies are accelerating at very fast pace with the help of tools and technologies like AI. Threats are evolving. The cybercrime has become more structured and with the business precision it is operating. Enforcement is adapting, but governance and legal system must continuously catch up. So, let us now examine, right, whether AI gives us defenders an advantage or the attackers, right? So, to start the round two again, I'd like to go to Vaibhav Patkar, sir. Sir, we were talking in the morning. Do you believe AI today gives defenders a measurable advantage or attackers are currently ahead?
I'll try to answer in a different way. A defender has to look at all the aspects to protect his environment, but an attacker has to find one hole or one gap. And wherever it is, he can able to get it. But in order for that hole to find, obviously, if he has an AI technology at his disposal, he could do it. But I like to highlight one peculiar incident which happened a few years back. A well-known network management tool, the hack of I would say one of the engineers. Where I don't think AI was completely involved here, but the way the thought process has gone, where this tool, this company, where which manages the network, with the product which manages the network of most of the top Fortune 100 or 1,000 companies. The hackers, they infiltrated into their system and nobody knew that for a long time, and they put their payload in such a way that their antivirus or anti-malware system did not figure it out, and it got embedded itself into the next release of patches, and it got proliferated to the thousands of systems across the world. Now, that is not AI. That is actually the human ingenuity, I would say. I would salute to the chap who actually did this activity. By stroke of one simple click, he now controls the thousands of systems across the world. And what he did not penetrate all the systems every time, or rather individually, I'm sorry, but he just infiltrate into one system which was got. So how do you, if you have an AI, how would you really look into that? Because your AI can probably look into your environment, because today when you talk about AI, it's not truly AI, according to me, because it's still somebody's viewpoint or somebody's logic which he implements into its system. Because there is no standard like an ISO where we can actually ISO 42000 talks about AI, but not on the way the AI has been structured, because it's the way I program it and the way you program it is completely different. And that's a logic when you talk about, you integrate when you do an AI, right? So the AI guy has to just figure it out something, and then, but the defensive side, he has to think about a lot many things he has to think and so that he can protect. So obviously, as I said earlier, the kind of protection mechanism one has to integrate with the AI capability is great. But this the tool which the hack which I was talking about, when you have that kind of I mean, whatever protections mechanism you had, they will fail because somebody has thought something different, right?
Yes. 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 Thank you, sir. So, I mean, with that being said, now we have to be a little quick, right? We are already past our time. So, I'll quickly like to go to Shobha, ma'am. How AI is particularly being used in fraud detection and threat intelligence in highly regulated environments like banking?
Um, so thank you again. And I would say there are many scenarios in which AI needs to be leveraged. And when AI is being used as an attack media, I think we need to leverage AI for the protection mechanisms as well. So as we say, diamond is needed to cut another diamond. So to accomplish something where we have near real-time insight into evolving fraud related pattern and would need a scalable oversight across various products and the logs that come over it and the cross-channel related complexities that we need to look into. We would definitely need to leverage AI for that. It can be starting from as simple as reducing the number of false positives. So the volume of alerts that we get and the false positives that we need to deal with, I think that can be an immediate application on how we could leverage. And also coming up with various models that can adapt and evolve as well. So as the attack mechanisms and vectors evolve, we need to also look at models which can evolve with the protection or the preventive mechanisms and also detect some of the manipulations that AI is enabling. It could be an audio or a video manipulation that it does. To detect it is humanly impossible. So we would have to leverage AI itself to detect and then act on it as well. So those are few things that I can think of where frauds can be identified, which is generated by fusing AI into it, and also various threat intelligence related scenario where we need to create an intelligence kind of a fabric to look into it, and it can involve n number of transactions, patterns, behavior that needs to be analyzed. So in all these scenarios, we would definitely lean in and leverage AI.
Yeah, I mean, yes, I mean, snake poison is used to treat snake bite, right? So that's how it is. So, yeah. So I'll quickly like to go to Sukhjit Singh, sir. So how should you think telecom and global infrastructure players prepare for AI-powered systemic attacks?
Yeah, sure, Rajendra ji, thank you. So I think, see, the 2 points which I specifically want to mention, and although there are many other things, but one is that most important is that AI-powered collective threat intelligence sharing is something which is extremely important thing, which needs to be collected across multiple parties, including the OEMs to telecom providers to enterprises, and which make it real time. So that is something which helps in terms of making sure that we are ready before the AI, based attacks can happen to the infrastructure of enterprise or any telecom providers. So we will be better placed in sense that we are aware that these kind of attacks which has happened in the past, we are ready to protect our infrastructure. And we know that how we do it. We have been doing it same way in terms of the threat intelligence, OTX platforms and others in the past, but this is something which we have to make sure that the AI enabled attacks also, those kind of threats are also sort of, we have the collective sharing mechanism or the platform for that. That is one. The second one is, I think the collective human judgment, while we are using the AI, can detect, correlate, can respond, can, do a lot of things very faster. It supports us, but the main thing is that the risk-based steering, which in the organization needs to be very clearly, put in place in the beginning as under the policy itself while the AI is rolled out, which ensure that the high priority, risk which are taken care by the human intelligence, not left to the AI itself to decide, while the lower security based incidents, which can be automated, acted upon. So there is a very clear need for a human being to sort of manage the high risk incidents with the human knowledge and make sure that that is something which is humanly controlled. Otherwise, this becomes very difficult for controlling everything based onto the AI, which is sort of we have seen that there are misses in that. The technology can miss. AI is still have to, it's a reasoning based system, so reasoning may fail at some point in time and could be a huge impact onto the enterprise security system. In addition to that, there are other, as I earlier mentioned, that the reactive to proactive things and technologies are available to secure the infrastructure in itself, which will continue to be utilized. So these are few points I think are important ones to mention.
Of course, we have to be proactive more than reactive now because of the kind of evolution we have. Now, quickly to Pankaj sir, to you. When dealing with ransomware or dark web-oriented crimes, what operational barriers do you face? I mean, typically our enforcement agencies face.
Yeah, as I had mentioned, the issues when it comes to cross-border crimes, those are typical issues that as I had mentioned, that it is very with our forensics, with our investigation, we may reach out to the perpetrator, but at the end, it is just an IP address or just a phone number or a setup. And the procedure after that, as a few panelists have mentioned, that it is a very time consuming process. Secondly, the operational challenge which one should be aware of is that the kind of volumes which we are subject to. As I had said initially, that it is becoming an ecosystem problem, and now AI is definitely going to amplify that problem, because the kind of compounding effect which AI gives to anything, so that is going to be a challenge before us. So those typical challenges are there, and I think the way forward has to be that as law enforcement agencies, as somebody working closely with the criminal justice system, we will have to put in resources, we will have to be guarding ourselves, will have to be, keep ready for the future challenges.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you. So quickly to Ashish ji, how can Indo-US cooperation be strengthened in cybercrime regulation and investigation? What do you think? What is your take?
Yes. Very, very important question, Rajendra ji. So, to put it in perspective, when we talk about India-US relationship, so we are 750 million internet users in India, which is a huge number. And we are being served by US companies, as the discussion about WhatsApp privacy policy was there. So we really need an agreement beyond MLAT. So the way we actually got the trade deal signed, so probably we need to work on another deal or agreement, under the US's Cloud Act, wherein we can have this quick access under that agreement for the data, which can be requested, which can be preserved in that manner. So we need to have an agreement with US, which is a bilateral agreement under the Clouds Act. That is one aspect. And second aspect, while we are doing and getting these data sharing agreements, so that time, again, that privacy aspect, wherein both governmental level privacy protection as well as from the private players as well. Because US also has its fourth amendment, which protects the private.
Hello. 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 Hello.
Ashish ji, your account has been hacked.
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, I don't know.
Yes, 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 yes. I scared.
He
I
got
thought it
hacked.
is me, actually. So, yeah, I thought our network is hacked. So that's okay. I think, yeah, if Nagarathna ma'am is there, I mean, quickly. So, ma'am, do you think we need new jurisprudential thinking of AI-enabled crimes, or can existing principles adapt quickly?
Yeah. So just as I said earlier also, yes, again, a common combined approach. See, a lot of jurisprudential principles have evolved over a period of time. So some of them are apt forever. So keep those in mind when you make a law, because sometimes if that doesn't suit that modality, the law fails. See, we have wider provisions, as I said earlier, also in IT Act, any law you take. But despite that, why we not been able to effectively regulate crime is because sometimes they're not in conformity with some of these jurisprudential theories, principles. But yes, some needs a relook. For example, certain offenses, maybe you should not, look for guilty mind. That is, legally we call it as mens rea. So certain offenses, of course, requires a totally new approach. And especially more than substantive law, I think we require a revision of the procedural law and the evidence law. So even though Bharatiya Nagarik Suraksha Sanhita has brought in a lot of changes in the procedural law, it is still not enough to regulate, investigate crimes which are like cyber crimes, and challenges are many which are indicated by other resource people also, like access to data, time prolonging process. I think that is where we need to revise the law, and there also we may have to relook in the way you interpret privacy. Of course, today privacy includes informational privacy, so a lot of things needs to change. But as I said, some are well established principles, they'll have to be there. For example, you may apply strict liability, which has happened in fact under POCSO, but they are usually not in conformity with some of the basic principles of criminal liability. So then it gets criticized. So I think, yeah, to a certain extent, fundamental principles should be considered, and to a large extent, it requires a vision looking at the way things are changing. End of the day, I think of achieving the objective of the law is more important.
So we're having fantastic discussion. I wanted to have a strategic roundtable, but because I had to watch time, it's already 8:21, so I had to do justice to our participants as well. So I'll directly take it to the participants. We are open for your questions if you have any questions for the panelists.
May I go with my question, Rajendra, if you don't mind?
Yes, please. Sure.
Yeah. So my first question to Pankaj sir, I saw him smiling, like when Nappinai madam said that we should have some trust in the judiciary and lawmakers also. So, sir, what I'm trying to say that, of course, it's very good to say that we should have trust, but as a layman, it is heard that when they go with complaints to the police officer, 90% of them say that they have been turned down, saying, no, nothing can be done, even though approach in few hours. And that's a very big disappointing point, and that you also must have heard that it's the case with 90% of the cases. And trust me, the amounts are not always small. So maybe it's small for an individual or a big corporate, but even if somebody loses 5 to 10 lakh rupees, it's a big amount for them. And so what is your call about it, sir? What is your say?
No, I have a very straightforward take on this, which is that like any other agency, even the law enforcement agency has its own limitations as far as the training and capacity building is concerned. You will also have to appreciate that sometimes the person who is being approached, the policeman or the police station, as madam was saying, that now it is no longer the problem of the tier 1 city. Now it has proliferated into the every corner of this country. So there may not be a appropriate appreciation of what the problem is, or what the victims say is, and because of that it creates a lot of problem. That is the reason why the government is working on it. We have something called as the National Cybercrime Reporting Portal, whereby we try to capture all sorts of cyber crimes, and we try to do justice with that individual. But as I have said, that it is a problem of capacity building, it is a problem of sensitivity, and it will persist because we have such a diversity, and the kind of people who are there at the cutting edge, they may not be completely in a position to appreciate the take of the victims. So that is there. And that is where, people in leadership positions like us, we try to sensitize, we do constant trainings, we do constant interaction with other stakeholders, but the problem still persists.
Okay. There is one area which I would like to touch on this same thing. Ashish, you since you're saying about policies. Okay, can we have a policy in which we can include insurance providers to ensure such things? And at the same time, a small policy where, like in like we have got FIR in case of accident in major of the cases. But for such cases, can we have like in a metropolitan city, we have got accident memo where a person gets rid of filing an FIR, just gets a memo. So if insurance gets involved, can we have the jurisdiction come with a policy which says, okay, you just find a memo that, okay, you have been cheated with so and so details, and we can go ahead with this. At least this will have accurate data on board, because I think 90% of the cases are not even reported on books. So I think that is something where the policymakers can look into.
Okay, great.
It's
Before
very
going
true.
to
Many
Ashish,
of these cases, sir.
before
Yeah.
going to Ashish, Pramod Jain is raising hands. So after
Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Nehalji, Pramod Jain will be asking question. Over to you, Ashish.
Yes. It's a very important question, Nehalji. See, what is happening, even the industry is also responding. And cyber insurances are also in place. So many a time, even banks are purchasing these insurances. And wherein the insurance being awarded to the victims, and again, there are, when we talk about challenges in the existing insurance policies as well. So yes, there is a drive towards it. There are insurance policies in place, and those insurance policies are also being executed, and some people are also being benefited out of it. So yes, something is happening on that line, but a lot can be done.
Thank you.
Hope I was audible.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I think Pramod Jain ji, can you unmute? Okay, I'll unmute. Allow to talk. Pramod ji, over to you.
Thank you. This is Pramod Jain. I'm calling from Pune. First of all, good evening to every one of you, and also a big thank you for a very informative and enlightening session on a very vital topic of cybersecurity. My question is, all these bank frauds that happen, the money gets transmitted from one person's account to somebody else's account. Now, this whole transaction is happening digitally. So why the recipient cannot be traced when everything is done digitally and caught and brought to the law book?
I think Ashish ji is the best person to answer this.
Ashish ji and Pankaj ji may like to answer this question.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So I hope I'm audible now. Pramod ji, you'll have to understand that this is not the situation out there is quite complex. Please understand that what the criminals are doing. The criminals are doing are using our financial infrastructure and the DPI, that is the digital public infrastructure. So these two infrastructures are being used by the criminals. Like whatever, if you say that amount was siphoned off from one bank account, from the victim's bank account to criminal's bank account, it is not that simple. We encounter cases whereby the layering is up to 40 layers, 40 levels of layering happens, whereby from one bank account it is then shredded and sent to multiple bank accounts. Again, the amount is shredded and sent to multiple bank accounts. So amount of 1 crore, it gets shredded, and at the ATM level, at the 10, 15, 20th level, some 2000 rupees are withdrawn through various ATMs. And then again, there's a Hawala racket operates, which again collects and gives it to the perpetrator of crime. So that is the reason why the emphasis of the government is on creating system. Now, if you visit, or if you Google search about National Cybercrime Reporting Portal, you will understand that The moment you call on 1930 and give basic details, all the account freezing happens in a jiffy. It doesn't take much of the time. But even if the account freezing happens, the other part of reaching of catching hold of the criminals and booking them and bringing them, so that is a major challenge. I hope it partly answers your question.
No, Pankaj, yes, it does, and I fully agree with you that they would use multiple layering. But the point here is that why do we have to worry about those 40 points of layering? The next account in whose account the my money has gone or the victim's money has gone, we need to catch hold of him, and from that, we need to go further and do the dissection and find out as to finally where the amount is landed, because the first point where the money has gone from the victim's account, that first point is also part of the network. Can we not catch hold of him and then unravel the whole the scam as to how the money has got transferred?
Unfortunately, it is not that simple, because we will also have to consider the dimension of time, the dimension of space, and the dimension of distance as well. Because a criminal who is, say, second layer, third layer, is sitting in the other part of the country. So it is not as simple as it is being made out. So I mean, I don't think this is the forum to explain the complexities, but investigations, especially cybercrime investigations, are utterly complex. And the best solution to prevent a cybercrime is that not letting it happen. I think the defense is the only mechanism, because once you lose out your money, it becomes very difficult to recover it, and it is very difficult to catch hold of the last criminal.
Okay.
I fully agree with you. So maybe there's a need to have the protocols between the countries globally, and so that this tracking of the culprit, sitting across the globe, where the governments agree to each other of sharing the information of the banking system, agreeing to sharing the information. Thank you
Right.
so much. Thank you.
Yeah, sometimes it's not that as simple as that. I mean, I know Nagarathna ma'am, you wanted to answer, but we are running short of time and we are already past time actually. So before we conclude, right? I mean, a few themes stand out, right? I said AI is both a shield and weapon, right? The dark web is no longer chaos; it is organized commerce. Cybersecurity is no longer optional; it is a strategic infrastructure, and perhaps most importantly, collaboration between enterprise, enforcement, law, policy, academia, and infrastructure leadership is no longer desirable. It is essential. That being said, for vote of thanks, I will like to hand it over to co-chair of our Indo-US Trade Relationship Committee for IACC, Mr. Nehal Desai ji.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Of course, it was a wonderful session to speak to, and I think we could have gone on for another couple of hours or maybe days on this on and on. So, as we conclude this highly insightful and engaging session, it is my honor and privilege on behalf of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Indo-US Trade Relations Committee to propose the vote of thanks. Today's webinar on Inside the Shadow, Cybersecurity, AI, and the Dark Web Threat Economy has been exceptionally relevant and timely. At a moment when digital transformation is accelerating globally, the perspectives shared today have deepened our understanding of emerging cyber risks, regulatory challenges, and critical role of technology, policy, and cross-border cooperation. To begin with, I would like to sincerely thank our leadership. My thanks to Mr. Anup Acharya, National President IACC, for his constant guidance and support. Unfortunately, he couldn't join us today. And to Mr. Arun Karna, Chairman of the Indo-US Trade Relations Committee, for his vision and leadership in making initiatives like this possible. I extend my heartfelt thanks to all our distinguished speakers who generously shared their expertise, experience, and insights. Mr. Vaibhav Patkar, Mr. Sukhjit Singh, Ms. Shobha Jagtap, Ms. Jagatpal, Mr. Pankaj Deshmukh, Ms. N.S. Nappinai, Dr. Nagarathna Annappa, Mr. Ashish Sonawane. Your diverse perspective from law, enforcement, industry, academia, and global enterprise have truly enriched this discussion and provided a valuable practical takeaways for all of us. A special word of appreciation to our moderator, Mr. Rajendra Gangade, founder and MD CEO of Vishwaguru Infotech Private Limited, for expertly steering the discussion and ensuring a seamless, engaging, and insightful exchange of ideas. Let me tell you, to have 8 prominent speakers and to just try and make sure that everybody comes out with relevant points, it's not an easy task. Rajendra ji, fantastic work to just pull out all of them together.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for this wonderful work. I would also like to thank the Indo-US Trade Relations Committee, the IACC Secretariat, and the entire organizing team for their meticulous planning, dedication, and flawless execution for this virtual session. Finally, my sincere thanks to all our participants for joining us today and for your active engagement. Your presence reinforces the importance and continued dialogues and collaborations between India and the United States, especially in the critical areas such as cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and digital trust. On this note, I once again thank everyone who contributed to the success of today's program and look forward to your continued association with IACC. Thank you very much.